What's your mother's maiden name? What's your favorite color? Do you have any pets? What are their names? Name all the Bee Gees. Tonight we review another Psych classic. Well, right here, right now.
I've heard it both ways.
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 And welcome back to I've Heard It Both Ways. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. And riding with me, as always, in the Blueberry is my partner in crime, Shuttlecock Skywalker. Cock, how you doing?
I'm doing well after that nickname. Good start to the program. We already got a viewer in. And for those of you who can't view this and you're just listening audio-wise, and by the way, we have all the podcasts up now. And we'll continue to. And we already got some pretty good numbers on them. So thank you for listening and wanting the content. But I am also wearing an I've Heard It Both Ways t-shirt, which you can get at tpublic.com. So we'll drop the link in the bio for our store on PCP, the Twitter thing. So you can search us there. It's kind of hard to find it otherwise, though. Yeah,
you did a great job. I'd be wearing mine, but I've got the green screen behind me. And the lettering's green, so my nips would be see-through. But great stuff as always. The I've Heard It Both Ways logo, the PCP shirt that you did, and the Rossi's Horrible Take shirt you did are pure gold. So I would definitely head over to tpublic.com and check those out.
Indeed, sir.
Yeah, Swaggins has her shirt too. She loves it.
Oh, it's adorable.
She loves the little pineapple on it. So she's she's pleased. But welcome back. 11 shows so far, Billy. We're cooking. We're cooking
with gas, and this is by far my favorite one that we are about to do so far.
Yeah, this one's great. So we'll hit us off with our process there, Billy.
Yeah, we start with the holler, we end with a cream skull, and if there's time in between, sir,
a little Thundercats. Ho!
So let's dive right into maybe my favorite episode of season 1.
Yeah, the name's a little long. I almost ran out of words on Twitter. He loves me not. He loves me. Oops. He's dead.
Yep.
So this one is great. Absolutely love this one. So we start off with the cold open, and this is a great cold open. We get Sean got his hat down over his face, and he's trying to sneak past Henry. I know I tried to get past. I tried that same maneuver. Get past my parents a few times. If you just pull the cap down and look down towards the ground, they won't suspect a thing. But Henry is pretty on the ball, and so he calls Sean over and. Sean lifts up his cap. He's got a nice shiner, and Henry wants to know, who, what the hell happened? Who hit you? And Sean tells him that it was Elizabeth. A girl hit him, and Henry's like, well, why the hell, did she hit you? And so Sean, was explaining that, she asked him to sit with him at, asked to sit with her at lunch, and he just wants to eat his tots.
He's focusing on my tots, Dad.
He's focusing on my tots, and she's talking to him, and he's not paying attention.
She just kept going on and on and on and on, and I'm focusing on my tots.
And then Henry this is actually a nice heartwarming moment from Henry, because he feels like he's having a real father-son moment with them, because he's explaining to him that he just had his first date.
Yep, it's great. And, his reaction with, well, then why'd she sock me in the eye? I love that. I remember that vividly. And rewatching this a few times this week. He played the child Sean there, one of the better child Sean, crushes this scene. And, Henry tells him that, you got to listen to the women. You got to, and basically just everyone included, too, as we get, we get Swaggins in.
Can we wave, kiddo? Can we wave? Say hi.
The most heartwarming podcast in the GSG. Oh my God, it's a baby.
Good night, kiddo.
So hopefully she's not sucking any kids' eyes at the lunch table. But if they're not listening to her, feel free to take a swing. But yeah, so it's a great little opening scene. I love the back and forth. He also says you got to listen to everybody, not just women. Your barber. I don't want to date the barber. That was a great line.
Yeah.
And it's, listening to women and everyone is a pretty good lesson to learn.
Yeah, this is an ongoing theme, and it's one of the better Henry things that we get is he's very good about giving, and instilling in Sean, I don't want to say advice about women, but how to treat and how to respect women.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very common thing that we'll see throughout the series. Because Sean will bring that up a couple of times, and Henry's a very good role model Sean in that regard. So this was a nice, fun, sort of heartwarming beginning, to the show. And so now, we'll get right into the case. And what the case in this episode revolves around is a bunch of naked dudes waking up in fields with no memory or recollection of what's happening. And so the show starts off at the station, and you get Sean showing off a little bit, right? He's got one of the cops there, and he's doing the old, guess your age, guess your weight sort of thing. And he's having a little bit of fun with it. And everyone's sort of clapping along in astonishment. And Lassie sort of looks over, and Chief Vic comes up to him, hands him a case, and he's like, what, and then he looks at Sean again, and he has a brilliant idea. Let me hand this case that I don't want to Sean. And so Sean takes it. He's very enthusiastic.
Lassie face.
Yeah. And Gus goes, something's not right here. This doesn't add up. But
and that's classic Carlton, because he doesn't do that. He does that a lot throughout the course of the show. He'll throw Buzz a bad case every now and then. Happens a couple of times in one specific episode where Buzz keeps getting the better case, even though Lassie thinks he's passing him the bad one. Yep. So that's, Carlton is not above. Like, he's definitely feels like he's above a lot of police work. And this is a great scene when they go to interrogate, what is it? Mr. Turk?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, because he even does that to Jules too a few times.
Oh, yeah. He passes the buck.
He even passes her his taxes, I think, at one point, right?
Oh, everything, yeah.
So Sean's like, yeah, we got a case. Let's do it. And so as they're walking down to the interrogation room, I love this little back and forth, with Gus, where, Gus is like, yeah, I don't know, Sean, doesn't add up. And Sean just goes, we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to get a little dirty. We're going to do some good old fashioned police work, like Heat of the Night, which makes me Carol O'Connor.
No, that makes you Rod Steiger, which makes me Sidney Poitier.
That's right. and I love that, because this is another one of those classic psych themes where, I'm this, you're that. No, wait, I'm this, you're that. Yeah. And
Gus loves him some Sidney Poitier, because he also does the they called me Mr. Tibbs later in the So Gus went into a bank episode too. So he's probably, Gus is a great actor, so no better actor to look up to than Sidney Poitier.
And plus he's a dashing black, black man as well, as is Gus. So, I just always love it when they do that. And especially when, I reference this episode all the time, Viagra Falls. And and we got to be the same fruit. How about the grapples?
I like myself a good grapple, Don.
That's right. So they go into interrogate, the interrogation room, and what do they see? But a nice, big, thick, naked dude. Yep. And as you'd imagine, they're both a little standoffish here.
Please try to gain control of your considerable person, which is a great line.
And so Sean's trying to go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just a great line, because just the gain control of your considerable person. It's just that little turn of phrase inside a normal phrase that makes it fucking hilarious. And then you have one here with the P. Yeah, right. So I'm the head P of this SBPD, right? You're the who for the what now? Don't concern yourself, Mr. Turk.
And what's great about this whole thing is just how uncomfortable, everyone is. Gus wants to get
you uncomfortable? Is there any reason why you're not wearing clothes right now?
You maybe drape the towel across your lap. That's what it's there for. So it's what's great is because Sean doesn't really want to make eye contact with the guy. Gus wants to get the hell out of there, but Sean still wants to, because I don't think we've really had it up to this point where, Lassie has, voluntarily, willingly given him a case. So, he's all about it. And so, when Sean's starting to ask him questions, the guy's freaking out because he's got no memory of what the hell's going on. He thinks he was abducted by aliens.
Little green men.
Yeah. So he's like, little green men. He's got memory loss. And we get what's great about this episode is not only is it full of yucks, but the case itself was great, but we get a lot of clues.
Yep.
In this episode, right? So it's fun to follow the clues. and try to figure out what's going on. So, he's able to sort of he sees this little stamp on the forearm of Mr. Turk, and then we get a lot of the clues from Mr. Turk himself about he's got a headache, he's got memory loss, he remembers the strong scent of lavender. Sean notices there's a lot of cuts on his feet, and as you said, he saw a little green men, and the one thing that I love is that Sean and Gus will always be all in on aliens. Did we lose?
Right.
Did we lose Billy?
So I think I'm still here. I think you're catching back up. I think I'm catching back up. I don't know. Can you hear me?
I got you, Billy.
All right, so we're good. Okay, yes. So there's a lot of good clues here. They love lavender throughout this show. Lavender gooms.
Yeah.
Gus always talking about, I forget the girl. The gooey girl likes her men to smell of lavender. So,
that's right. Yep.
We get back to the psych office, and Sean thinks it's a case, and he's trying to glean from Gus whether or not he thinks there's a certain medication that could do this. And then Gus goes on a rant of just like listing all of these medicines, and it's hilarious. And then he names the one, and he's like, "Did I already say that?" And Sean's like, "There's no way to be sure."
Yeah.
And then Sean finally puts it all together that the things that he said weren't, just clues. It was an actual location, and he knows where that location is.
Right, because Gus is kind of showing off here, right? Because Gus wants to believe that it's aliens or whatever it is, and Sean's like, no, there's right. And so as he's listing things off, he's
Be a generous sector.
Right. And then all of a sudden, right, Gus gets a clue face. And he goes, wait a second, lavender. And then the cuts on his foot. He goes, these aren't symptoms. As you said, this is a location. Right. So then they go to where, in Santa Barbara, where there's lavender fields and barbed wire. And as they show up there, Lassie and Jules are already there, not waiting for them, but they're there because there's been another naked man found, with, no idea of what's going on. And, as they get there, Sean, he gets some more clues here. There's a tire tread he sees. There's a woman's shoe strap. There's a hair on a spider web. And as they're sort of, eyeballing the naked dude up and down, Sean also, again, sees another stamp. He can't quite make it out, but there's the similar marking on the guy's, forearm. So, Sean is like, this case that you gave me that you didn't want, it's linked to this one. And in typical Lassie fashion, dismisses it and says,
he thinks it's a copycat. And, Gus has the great line of, this guy sees Turk embarrassed in the paper and he thinks, gee, why can't I make a fool of myself too? So it's not a copycat. That's just ridiculous. But Lassie has a half-eaten enchilada in his car, so he's got to go deal with that first. So, but, Sean does, as you have here in the notes, gleans another clue that these guys are, gingerbread men in the winter of Santa Barbara, which is still pretty sunny. But They are, 360-degree tanned all over their body.
Yeah, it's the dead of winter, and these guys are, they're looking good color-wise. They got a nice base tan, and so Sean, we get that great deductive reasoning from Sean. Says, well, there's only one reason why these guys could be so tan in the dead of winter, and so they head to the.
They fake and they bake.
They fake and they bake, and they go to this particular one because Sean says, no streaks on the butt cheeks.
And that screams it screams of the NC-tan process.
Yeah. So they get there, and I love this. This is one of the best scenes because Sean is so wrapped up in trying to get clues and figure out he kind of throws common sense out the window. So he's like, Gus, I'm going to do this. You said you always want to get involved. Ask some questions. Go get a spray tan. And Gus is trying to tell him maybe him getting a tan is not the smartest play here.
Yeah, but it's also, I think, and maybe he didn't, know how to play it exactly, but I think this is Gus's worst acting job in the whole series. Like when he's trying to get Sean's attention, but it's still pretty good where he's just like, yeah, screw it. I'm not here for a tan. Have you seen these two guys? Yeah. And then they find out that they're there, and then, it's the single guys who are always getting the tans to try to keep up with the chicks. So they're both single. They're both getting tans. They both wound up in a field. And, Sean goes, it's kind of pathetic for a guy to think that a tan is going to get him some chicks. And then, boom, who walks in?
Love it. Henry. the last guy you expect, to be there. And so Sean, Henry goes, "What are you guys doing here?" He goes, "Well, George Hamilton, we're on a case, and so they sit down and not Gus. Sean is so disgusted and so perplexed at why his dad, this hardened, gruff policeman he has known all his life, this raging a-hole, is at a spray tan. As we saw in the episode before, his dad was on a date, so they've been playing that up a little bit, and there's a lot of great back and forth between.
Oh yeah.
And is that it? He's going through Henry's bag. He goes, "Is that an exfoliating scrub with pumice?"
All I know, Sean, is when I, paint my boat, I want to sand off a layer first. And he goes, "That's the single most disturbing analogy I've ever heard." So a lot of good back and forth, but as in typical Henry fashion, what he does here is say, you put a fix on this location because you got the tan, but that isn't necessarily everything, because there's so many coincidences already with this case. They wind up in a field. They're going tanning. They have the stamp. He's too focused on tanning, and that comes up later because that was what he used with Chief Vic. But it's really a good point by Henry. Is like, you're too focused on one point that necessarily isn't the big point. And we see this in everyday life. Even when Dork did that case, both cases, I would say, they spent a little too much time sometimes on one thing that they thought was the actual clue, but necessarily might not mean anything. And I think that's what Henry was trying to teach him here. Like, you kind of got to broaden your horizons of this case.
Yeah, and I mean that happens all the time. I mean, whether you're, whether you're playing Madden, right? You're trying to figure out. It says you kind of get that tunnel vision, and so they have that. That's a really great advice from Henry. And as they're leaving, it's Gus who says, "What we need to do is we need to get Turk and the other guy together and interview them and see if there's other similarities." And Sean agrees, but he says all slacks all the time.
I've reached my naked man quota for the year.
Yeah. So Gus he's okay. It's definitely not aliens. Although Sean says, "Well, something definitely abducted my dad and replaced him."
Jose Bear, is it?
Jose Bear. Yeah. So. So they decide they're going to take a different tact, and this is when they get a call from Chief Vic. So they head back to the police station, or not to the police station. She calls them the field. That's right, and she tells them they're officially on the case. And so this is where Sean is still on that tanning thing. He says, "Give me, give me 5 seconds, and I'll tell you that he's got
this case is coming back to spray tanning."
Yeah,
and this guy's never seen the sun. He's dead, and he looked like he owed the sun money.
That's right. And so we now have a third victim. He's pale as a ghost. He's dead, and we get a bunch of more jeepers. We get a few more clues here. And let's see. Again, the stamp on the forearm, and this time he gets a better look at the stamp, and he put it together that all 3 stamps are not only the same, but they're of a very specific design, and that's of a clover leaf. So Sean asks Gus, how does he feel about leprechauns?
Which I love, and the interaction with them and Marvin, the leprechaun at the Blarney Stone, which is hilarious. Like they work this in, and it's a little bit like kind of goofy. But when he's like, "Would you like to try some of our Blarney Stone fajitas?" Like.
The world's famous Blarney Stone fajitas.
Like the first few times I watched the episode, I didn't get like how ridiculous it would be for an Irish pub to have fajitas. Like that to me is just good comedy when you really look into it. But they go there, they do the back and forth with him. He's kind of a dick. Sean's being a dick back though. He's asking him to say, magically delicious and all that stuff. But I love the back and forth they have about the speed dating.
Yes. Yeah, this was
great. Fantastic.
Yeah, and so, but this was great because he's like, "Can you say magically delicious?" He says, "No, but I can say,
I can call the police. Yeah,
I can call the cops." So, I mean, I get why he's a dick, because he probably hears that every day. But Sean, during this exchange, Sean sees the stamp, and it's is that the world famous
cloverleaf stamp?
And that's when Marvin says, "Oh, actually, it's it's part of our speed dating thing. It's one of our most successful nights of the week, and okay, now the wheels are spinning. Now Sean is able to kind of get off the whole tanning thing, and put it together that maybe there's something to speed dating. Maybe this is the common thread to how these guys, how all three of these cases are similar, and not just the tanning.
Oh yeah, and they figure out that it costs $100, and we already knew that like these guys were trying to get the adulation of ladies, at least the first two, by the spray tan thing. So the third guy didn't fit that description, but he probably fits the description of a guy who would do speed dating.
Yeah,
so we get that, but I also just love the exchange where they're trying to haggle with him on the money.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he's just like, I float you a 10 spot, and you introduce me to someone for 15 seconds.
That's right.
It's hilarious. So from there, they go back and they question Mr. Turk again, right?
Yeah. So they go to Mr. Turk's house, and this guy's great because he's so deadpan, and so they go into his house, and it's just fucking full of cuckoo clocks. Like, what the hell is up with the goddamn? Like, and it's funny. He goes, "Yeah, it's weird. The ladies weren't, flocking towards me like they
usually are." Yeah.
And the look on Sean and Gus's face was great. And so they when they asked me about the speed date, he said, "Well, I didn't bring that up because I was a little embarrassed about it." But then some other strange things were happening. I had a couple of job interviews, and
even though it was the perfect candidate, I didn't get a call back. And then Sean goes, "Were you on time for all of these interviews?" And he's like, "Yeah. Why do you ask?"
Yeah.
Like that like that little subtle comedy I love. And it is a bit tropey to just have a guy whose house is literally just cuckoo clocks, but it's a good like little buildup of this odd character who we only see in small spurts, but that shows you how much they put into just like that little thing for just a couple of jokes. And for me, like every section of this episode is packed with either a one-liner, a good situational comedy joke, or really good back and forth comedic acting between either Gus and Sean, Gus and Juliet, or I think this is probably Sean and Henry's best episode so far.
Oh, no doubt. And it's those little subtle things those are some of the things that make you laugh the hardest. I mean, we love the nicknames and the catchphrases and the pop culture references, but just that, those subtle little things like, were you on time, for those interviews?
Yeah, it's great.
And all and everyone they get to be on the show, whether it's the guest actors or just the regular actors themselves, one of the great things about good acting and the show is the facial expressions.
Oh,
they almost always just have, great reactions and great facial expressions. So that was a great little scene. And what it did was it sort of confirmed to them that, okay, so yes,
speed dating is the thing. Yeah.
Speed dating is the link, not necessarily the tanning thing just happens to be, coincidental, but it's really the speed dating that links them back. So they head back to the police station, and Sean wants Chief Vic and the police department to foot the cost for the speed dating, because it's $100. And so he's trying to haggle with her. And we could split it 50-50 if you want. I believe that's called going Deutsch.
Yeah.
Which was
we'll go Deutsch.
We'll go Deutsch.
That is just like such a nonchalant. I love the way he pulls that off. We are not dating. We are not paying for your dating services. He does the Deutsch thing. And he's like, we did try to negotiate some partial usage, but that leprechaun shut us down. He is like, I know your wife likes Fat Sean. And who doesn't like Fat Sean? But I think he's finally like kind of into his full character here. He's a little less too cool for school. He's being pretty goofy. Gus in this episode has his great moments, but like I think this is one of Sean's strongest early episodes.
Oh yeah, because he's much closer to that fat Sean character that we like, and it's just stuff like that. We tried to negotiate a fair price, but he shut us down.
Leprechaun shut us down.
That slight over, I wouldn't call it overacting, but just that slight, where he's just a little, it's perfect because he nails it. And, but they finally get, Sean does another psychic vision here where he talks about the clues from the second crime scene. And this is sort of what finally convinces the chief to pay for it and to go with the speed dating angle. And I love it because he pairs him up with Juliet to kind of go undercover to do it. And, Gus is in as well. And she throws Lassie in.
Oh.
And Lassie's like, no, I got this other angle. All of them had traces of GHB, which is,
The drug that like basically everybody kind of had the hallucination.
The roofies. It's roofies.
Yeah.
Right.
So what happened was everybody was fine after it, but one guy had a pre-existing heart condition, so it was all related. But the murder was accidental. But she just goes, and I like that angle. But you're gonna go to this too. It's just a date, Carlton. You do know how to conduct yourself on a date, and we find out that Lassie does not know how to conduct himself on a date.
No, he doesn't. No, it's so this is I think this is probably the best moment of the episode, of the show, is the whole, speed dating thing, because you get from Sean's perspective, you get Lassie's perspective, you get Jules and Gus's. And so all four of them are, trying to conduct, interrogations while, trying to, also, speed date and pull that off. And it's just great. The
before scene though, and you have it here in the notes, where he walks in and he's like, dude, you're dressed like a cop. You got to lose the tie. You got get the Simon Cowell going, chicks dig the salt and pepper, chicks dig. And he breaks it out here. And it's one of my all time favorite things. And I use it anytime I can. The sternum bush, eventually known as the stern bush. But the sternum bush breaks out here for the first time. And it's fucking tremendous.
It really is. I also will bust out a good stern bush, reference,
Chicks
because
dig the sternum bush.
Yeah, it's perfect, and it's brought up many times, and it's just such an old school, like machismo manly thing, and and he goes, you need to show some chest hair. Chicks dig the sternum bush. Jules, back me up on the sternum bush.
And then Jules walks away awkwardly, but I will even say, so this is season 1, episode 11. In season 8, episode 2, Seize, or as the Mayans called it, Seize. He breaks it out when he's giving Lassie the pep talk, and he goes, let the stern bush breathe. So We're getting they call this back so much, and they call it back from the very first season, one of the early episodes, but mid episodes, to the second episode, which is basically their kickoff episode. Season 8, episode 1 was a weird one with Despero, but it was the first one in the realm of season 8 to Sternbush, and just they're just so good at connecting all of those things throughout the series. Yeah. I love the Sternbush, and my favorite part is when he's on the date. And she tells Lassie's first date, she's like, oh, you have swimmable eyes. And he's already lost the tie, so he took Sean's advice. And then he kind of unbuttons a button and even lets the Sternbush breathe a little bit more.
Just a touch. Because you can't give Sean full credit, right? But, it might be on to something.
It's so subtle, but it's brilliant.
And what we also get before we dive into, the specific dates is that when Sean's having his psychic vision, he draws the tire tread from memory and hands it to Lassie, and Lassie is able to determine what car it came from. So that's information that they try and use to see if they could suss out a potential suspect.
And it's hilarious because Gus is going in on the high heel shoes because that's another one that they know.
Oh, hold on a second. I think we lost William.
Strappy high heel shoes. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Now I can.
So
now I can. Yep.
I'll start it over. So I don't know what's going on. My internet should be perfect. Usually Rossi's been having the trouble lately on PCP. But Gus has the strappy shoes angle he's working, and then Lassie has the winter tires, and they both creep out their dates. And then at the end, Sean is like, she has nothing but high heel shoes, and she drives an 04 Trans Am. And Gus is just like, how did you do it? And that just shows their ineptitude compared to the way Sean investigates.
Oh yeah, because when Gus is doing it, we're so used to seeing cool, suave Gus, and he's just anything but. And he comes off as very creepy. She asks him, "Are you into feet? Are you a foot guy?"
No.
And Lassie is just so menacing the whole time, and he's just being a cop, you know?
Yeah. Where were you the night of the 31st?
Yeah,
No, you're not going anywhere. I got 3 more minutes.
So the big one here is so Sean, the first woman that he's on a speed date with, a lovely blonde lady, and it seems like they're hitting it off, but she's very gung ho, she's very enthusiastic, so she gets right into it. What's your last name? And Sean replies, Offinder Hindy.
Often Inderheiny.
Often Inderheiny. Yeah, right. Often. And then she goes, what's your mother's maiden name? And he goes, Buzz Teets. And she goes, like, yeah. And then she quickly asks, he mentions that, he grew up on a farm. She goes, oh, a farm, me too. I had lots of pets. Did you have any pets? What were their names? Quick, what's your favorite color? And then, the ding, ding, ding comes. So she's asking him, very specific questions. And then we get, Glassy and his train wreck date. We get Gus is trying to, get information from a woman named Darcy. And then we see Sean and Juliet. They get paired. And I love this moment.
Oh, yeah. We can take this. I think you have this in the Thundercats notes. But I absolutely love this. Then you also get the Juliet and Lassie part of it where that's when the speed dating host walks up to them and is kind of like, tell her she's pretty. And he's like, absolutely not. Yeah. And that's a nice little moment between the two of them because we've already established they're not going to be the love connection in this. That's kind of not beaten over the head, but you kind of get the idea of that early on, that it's definitely a Sean and Juliet thing. And they really never kind of cross paths, Carlton and Jules, in that way. They're pretty much like as good of buddies and as good a friendship as Sean and Gus are. Like they are, like if I'm putting Sean and Gus, and I think I've said it before, the best TV friendship ever. I really do believe that. Like Jules and Lassie, they might not be on the Mount Rushmore, but they'd be in like a podcast or dozen. They'd be in my top 11.
Well, they're really good partners, and they respect that relationship, and they trust each other, and that's huge. That's huge. Mm-hmm. And so that I think that speaks to the strength of their relationship. But we start to see the connection with Sean and Juliet. So I wrote in big bold letters it begins, and it's not something that really takes fruition until some time. But there's a lot of flirting that goes on between the two, and this is sort of the start of that. But Sean is able to get the information from Darcy. And Gus actually was able to pull off a date with Darcy, right?
She's all gung ho about it.
Yeah, she is. And so, Sean's like, yeah, do it. But Gus is like, wait a second, we think she might have killed the guy, But they go on the date and they go bowling, and I love this because when they get to the bowling alley, Gus goes right up to Sean and he goes, I don't know what to say. We ran out of things to say on the way over. And she keeps wanting to touch my head, Sean. What's up with that?
I mean, it's a perfect amount of roundness. Like everybody wants to touch his head. It's no one shuts Gus down. But it is kind of cool. You get that like little back and forth. You get the nervous Gus. He tells her, they go bowling, right? First. Yep. They go bowling, and then Gus is all freaked out because you said she might be a murderer. But my favorite scene, it's tough to say if this is my favorite scene from the episode because there's so many good ones. Yeah. But when they do the bowling thing and Juliet interacts with Sean with the guy she went on the date with,
that's good.
I fucking die. There's so many good parts about this. And from time to time, I will do the, oh, dude, that's my bowling hand when somebody goes to shake my hand because that's a great line. But, Jules sees him bowling because he makes a ridiculous thing and just hits the pin all the way on the right. Yeah. We've all been there. But then she comes over here. Sean, what are you doing? Bowling at a high level. He says, he's going to be sponsored by Lego, but they want to, he wants to wear Lego shoes. And then the interaction that he has with her date is one of my favorite things I've ever seen because he asks, can you tell me my future? And he's like, you're going to face a lot of rejection. Work-wise? No, not work-wise. And then, she's like, get back to your date. Sean's like, get back to your date. And then he goes, yeah, you bowled, and then she bowled. Then you bowled, and then she bowled. And then you got the sweet tuck, and it's awesome. Yeah. Like the sweet tight tuck that he says, that is one of my favorite things. And anytime I see a guy with his shirt tucked in, I just think sweet tight tuck every time.
Yeah, and it's a great moment because it's good, this good playful banter between Sean and Juliet. Yeah, you kind of see Sean is a little jealous, right? That's why he tells the guy
very jealous.
He's got rejection, in his future, and so this is really the episode I think that plants the seed between Sean and Juliet, and then we get another great scene here where Gus goes up to Sean and goes, Darcy wants to go back to my place. I didn't think this was going to go anywhere. I told her I have a beach house, Sean. And Sean has the bright idea. I know who's got a house on the beach. So they decide to send, Gus and Darcy to Henry's place.
Yep, and it's great. And, Sean's like, give me a minute. I'll go, smooth everything over. He goes to talk to Henry about it, and Henry is not feeling this idea at all. But Gus arrives anyways, and Sean keeps him outside. And then we get a nice back and forth between Henry and Sean. And I really think you don't notice how good their chemistry is because it's just so natural. But the back and forth that they have while they're on the porch is phenomenal. With the taking baths and it's man food, Sean. It's not just a quiche. And even when he goes to grab him a couple of times, Henry's reaction, it's so natural. It's so good. And I think that's just so hard to find early in the seasons of a show like this, especially like a cable show. And that's the other thing. Like when I'm watching this, I don't see, sometimes those cable shows are a little cheesy. And if you watched Monk, which I'm kind of slowly watching, I think I'm on season 2, you can feel a little bit of the cheese, squeezed in there. And not like they're leaning into cheese, but like they don't have, the best actors, even though Tony Shalhoub is great, but the rest of the supporting cast isn't as good. Everybody here is just bringing their A game in season 1, and the chemistry is already on a very good level.
Well, and that's the thing, is that you buy that Sean and Henry are father and son.
Oh,
you buy it, 100%. You buy that Sean and Gus are best friends. You buy that Juliet and Lassie are partners, right? The relationships, those 3 relationships are very believable, and it's just a great back and forth because the relationship between Sean and Henry is a very distant one, and at times can feel very cold, and so what we have here is Sean thinks he knows his father, and Henry all of a sudden he's taking baths. What's that smell? Is that gardenia with a hint of mango? And so like Sean is just absolutely baffled by this metrosexual Henry, and father. And I think it was earlier too, when they were at the tanning salon, and
where are the queer eyes?
Yeah. And goes,
Carson and Jay. Oh, and the one who makes the fish. Yeah.
Goes, why are you asking me? And then that's when Gus goes, yeah, look, he's the one that makes the fish, right?
Well, Henry knew Carson and Jay, and then he's like the one with the glasses. Yeah. Like, it's just a great back and forth there on the porch between the two of them. Sean's freaked out that he takes baths. Name one guy who takes baths. He's like, John Wayne, real bravo. Anyone who wasn't in the Old West. So that's great. And Gus is doing a terrible job with this woman. She's all over him, and he can't figure out kind of how to get information. Right. And then, I think, what is it? Roast is cooking. The bell goes off. Henry's got to moisten his roast.
He just walks right in there.
So he blows up the spot, and she's like, oh, well, you know what? It's fine that you have a roommate, but it's kind of cramping our style. Let's go to a field. And Gus is just not on his A game because he can't dance around this at all. And she's not an actual suspect because she starts freaking out and crying because she doesn't want to go to a field to kidnap him. She wants to go to a field to do the nasty.
To do the Billy D special. and so, again, you're right, Gus, because when Gus gets flustered, he kind of, he's done. He's cooked. Like he's not cool, smooth Gus when he's flustered. And so she starts weeping. She's like, oh my God, you don't like me. This is just a pity date. And she's just sobbing on him. And it pans back to Henry, and Sean. Henry goes, she's not your suspect.
No,
and so they rule, Darcy out. And as they're doing this, Sean gets a call from Lassie again, which is kind of surprising because why would Lassie calls Sean when there's a break in the case, because those two are, oil and, water and vinegar, or oil and water, whatever the turn of phrase
Something
is
like
there.
that.
But Lassie calls Sean and tells him, we've got Marvin. He was loitering outside of someone's house. And so they head back to the police station. So Lassie's in there, interrogating Marvin. And he's like, well, I was just taking their information because I was just trying to, he
was trying to get his own dates because that's what they're there for.
Yeah, exactly. And so then it goes outside the interrogation room, and Sean's talking with Chief Vic, and Sean has actually a really good point here where he says, don't cuff him, let him go. He'll lead us to his partner, because at some point Sean, I think it was the woman shoe strap, right? Sean goes, there's a woman involved. His partner he must have a partner. It must be a woman. He'll lead us.
Yeah, he doesn't own a car. He's not the right height.
Right.
He's not a woman. So he's not the guy, but he's being cocky. He's being kind of a prick. So we let him go and he'll lead us to the trap. So we already know everything's lining up, right? Yeah. Everything. Like, we nailed the speed dating. We got the stamp. We got the green stuff. So it's basically this guy. The only missing piece of the puzzle is basically who is the woman. So they go back to the speed dating because that's where Marvin is going. Yep. And the way days pass and time passes in this episode isn't exactly perfect, but it's TV, so you kind of roll with the punches. Yeah. So he goes back to work right after being arrested, even though he was just loitering around potential date's house, I guess. And it looked like they just left the date that Gus was on. But either way, they go back to the speed dating. And this is one of my favorite scenes. The girl comes up to Lassie, the host, and is just like, "You're not that good at this." And he's like, "Scat, this is police business."
Yeah, she's like, I feel guilty, taking your money.
Yeah.
So they've got everything but the why, essentially. Like, what exactly is the motive? They got to get the partner, but they still have to figure out, because you forgetting all this, someone is dead, right? So we're pretty sure, almost 100% sure that the death was accidental, but there's still a death. We still don't know exactly what the why is. And we get Gus showing up in one of Henry's shirts, his Hawaiian shirts.
Is that a hibiscus?
Yeah, which is just a great visual, because Gus is always so prim and proper, with his outfits, especially in black and tan. I own this one. I own this one. I own this one.
These are my exact tentacles.
Yeah. So seeing him in Hawaiian
shirt. I'm on parasailing. Did you move me in?
I love that episode. I can't wait to talk about that one. So, so now we're back there, and Sean's, scanning the room. He's doing his thing. They're going to do a second round of speed dating, and Sean notices that both Marvin has a tan line of a wedding band, and
Glenda.
And Glenda, this is calling back to his first speed date. The woman who was asking him all those particular questions. She also has a wedding band tan line on her finger, and that's when Sean puts it together. This is the partner, and then he recalls back to the questions she was asking him: mother's maiden name, your last name, favorite color, names of pets, and these are all questions that are security questions for things like credit card authorization. So now we have the why.
Yeah, and when he breaks it down and he does, what's your mother's maiden name? Did you have any pets growing up? What were their names? Name all the Bee Gees. The name all the Bee Gees kills me every time, because he just gets so into it, and he figures out that they're a married couple, and she's doing all of the dirty work by getting all of the security questions. He's stealing the forms, which has your name and address. Yeah. They're basically signing up for credit cards in your name, and they're drugging them to bring them back to get all of their info from their wallet too. So it's a pretty good little scam they got going on. He uncovers it all. He makes a little bit over the top speech about how they're stealing a seat from a single person, which is just to woo the girl that he stepped in on from the guy who was I think ate his own toes to survive or something. Who was really creepy, and that girl was hot, by the way.
Oh yeah. And I love the muscle chick that was eyeballing Gus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a great little scene. So I thought start to finish it was a great case. A couple of little quirks, but otherwise great episode start to finish. So if you want William, we can jump into some Thundercats Ho talk.
And we can even go. I think we go right to the Juliet stuff because that kind of ends the episode. Because Sean's back talking to the super hot girl, and then Juliet steps in. He's like, "That's my parole officer," and they get a little bit more of the Sean and Jules relationship, where Jules kind of sets the record straight. Like, they filled out the dating things, and it was a perfect match between her and Sean. Yeah, at the start of speed dating, they had to fill out these surveys because you're not going to date everybody in there in an hour. Yeah. So she's like, just because we match perfectly, I don't want you to think that means anything because we're going to be working together. And Sean reveals that, hey, I copied your thing. I really don't like to knit my own pajamas, but the date that they went on was, short, but it gave you that just little bit of the chemistry that they will have throughout the show.
Yeah, and I also got the got the feeling that Sean was saying that to, as a defense mechanism, because I'm pretty sure he knows Juliet to a T, and he knows all those details. He didn't copy it down over his shoulder. You know what I mean? He was just, taking it, and that was a defense because he does that a lot. That's a typical Sean thing, is to deflect and to, he's got all these sort of built-in defense mechanisms there. But it really did plant the seed because there was a real connection there. And one of the things I loved, and it was funny because Sean will always use humor, to woo a lady, especially Juliet, and he plays MFK with her, with a bunch of old white guys.
Yeah, Nipsey Russell is one of them. It's fantastic. And he also does this thing too. It's very subtle, but they use it a lot. So, we got to see if we can get Steve Franks on here and ask him a lot of questions. Because one of mine would be, they use a proper date a lot of the times. They use it in the Mr. Yang episode where he's going to take Abigail on a proper date and then unprovoked, without ever hearing it, other than this part right here where Sean's like, look at us two kids here on a proper date. In the same Mr. Yang episode, Juliet comes up to him and he's like, you don't deserve popcorn tonight. You deserve a proper date. So I want to know why they keep using that, because it's not accidental that they use it that much. And I use that all the time now when I ask ladies out on a date. I was like, I'll take you on a proper date.
I'll take you on a proper date because I think, as we said at the start of the episode, right? One of the positive things that Henry instilled in Sean, and is one of Henry's positive traits, is the treatment of women.
Yeah, respect.
Right? You respect them and you treat them. And so I think what we get with Sean is we get Lothario Sean, who, he's just, a cat out on the prowl, versus, the two real strong love interests, Abigail Lytar and Juliet. Those are two women that he respects, that he has real feelings for, and I think that's why he wants it. He uses the term "a proper date" because he feels something. He feels a connection, more than just let's go to Malden and get the three-way, and so so. I think that's why he uses that, because that's the tip that he really, is into those two women, Abigail and Juliet. So,
well, yeah. And he also, in a later episode, I forget which one it is. It's one of the ones where Henry's out dating this Hellcat one. It actually might be Black and Tan, A Crime of Fashion, where he says, remember the rule, treat a woman like a person, then a princess, then a Greek goddess, then a person again. Yeah. So he really does instill that. And, it is probably one of the better lessons that he teaches. And
speaking of which, that lady is a real minx.
Oh, yeah. She absolutely.
Is go get it, Henry.
She's a flesh hound for Henry.
So that was a great one. So I love that. I love the Henry Sean interactions in this episode, the metric, because you don't see that again from Henry, right? This is sort of Henry just sort of shedding some of that gruff exterior, figuratively and literally, for the show. That was great, and again, it's the beginning. Really, it's planting the seeds of that Sean Juliet romance, and this is an episode. And tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think this is one that was probably shot earlier and then placed later in the season, because we get the blue psych sign on The Office, and we have already seen an episode or two ago the green one. And so I think they filmed this one earlier, but it was a good place to put it because it's sort of back to back with Henry's on a date with ladies in the last episode, and then you get this one. But the comedy fit, I think, perfectly here. It seemed to. I'm glad that it was placed here versus earlier in the season when it may have been shot.
So I could have done this research, but I didn't. But we definitely got to try to have Steve Franks on because I'm really interested to know how the inner workings of the show are. So I do think because of the blue psych sign, it might have been shot out of order, or more importantly, who are the writers? You know what I mean? I think the writers have certain styles, and I doubt that every single solitary writer wrote every single episode because that's a lot of work. And usually what you do is you split up.
Lost you, Billy.
Up right. Am I losing this connection again? Did you lose me again, Joe?
Yeah, I got you now. We're back, baby.
Okay, you got me now. So it's been, I want to know who the writers are, how they assigned it, because whoever wrote this episode, even though, we'll get to it right now, no Gus nickname, no pineapple, but to me, this was the funniest, probably best composed episode of the season.
I want to say Steve Franks probably writes a lot of these episodes.
Oh, he does, but you're not writing this alone.
Right. And so there's definitely a team, and it's not uncommon, especially in a first season, to have things shot out of order because you don't know, is it going to get picked up or not, right? And so, but it definitely had more yucks than some of the earlier episodes did. It was definitely, I thought it was really well paced, and the crime was really great. So it was. I'm glad that this is where they put it, in the season. And I'm trying to think, like you said, no nickname, no pineapple. I was reading on the wiki, it was saying, well, in a deleted scene, there was get out of here with that wiki. They just say no pineapple reference, in the episode. But is there anything else you want to add to the Thundercats?
I'm looking right now, and it looks like Andy Bergman wrote this one. He also wrote Cloudy with a Chance of Murder, which is weird because that's not one of my favorite ones. And Steve Franks wrote From Earth to Starbucks. So it is really interesting to kind of see how, all of these are kind of written by different people. And it looks like this is one of the lowest viewed ones that they had.
Which is
weird because this is one of my favorites.
It's definitely one of the better ones for sure.
Actually, they kind of lost some steam. So, it was only seen at the time by 3.8 million people, and the season debut was actually 6.0.
Holy
that's
smokes.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And the season finale was almost a 4.5. So, we should definitely see if we can get some people on, maybe for the finale or, maybe season 2 premiere, which is one of the best ones of all time. But
it's one of my favorites.
Oh, it's amazing. And with that, we can probably move on to the creamsicle.
Yeah. So, did we like it? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. This is definitely, I think, a contender for top tier, season 1 episodes for sure.
I'm looking through and, we have Cloudy with a Chance of Murder, which I'm interested to rewatch a few times coming up because I've seen it a bunch, but it's definitely not one of my favorite ones. And they even make the caveat when they remake this episode. They talk about early in the remake in season 8 that you don't remake something that was already good. You remake something that wasn't that good but had a lot of potential. So maybe they don't even value that one that highly, but I do like that one. Yeah. The only other one I would say has a chance to be as good as this episode is Game, Set, Murder, because that episode is phenomenal.
That's with the tennis player, right?
Yes, that one's unreal.
Yeah, that one's great, and I think an underrated one is the poker one.
Oh, you know what? I do skip that one quite often, but I do like that one. That's Felicia Fancy Bottom. That has a lot of good stuff in it as well.
And there's a good crime to that. There's a good mystery to that. So that's an underrated one for sure. But this is definitely going to be consideration for top tier. And I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to talk about that, in terms of we'll get a guest or two on and how we break down the season and talk about it. But a little, come on, son.
Come on, son.
Come on, son.
Come on, son.
What do we got next week?
So next week, as I mentioned, we have Cloudy with a Chance of Murder. And it does have a lot of good twists and turns in it. You know what? I think it's a better episode than I give it credit for. And, our guy, Adam Kaufman, is flying through Psych like nobody's business. Not as fast as I did, because I don't think anybody binges shows quite like I do. but he's already at, I think, the end of season 3.
Holy
So
smokes.
I was watching, and he started like a few weeks ago. So I'm pretty impressed. He's digging it. And he had a lot of lines. Like he'll text me lines from time to time from the show. And he texted me quite a few from that episode. So it's a damn fine episode.
Yeah, I will also admit this is probably one of the episodes that, probably the episode I've watched the least. I remember I haven't even watched the remake of this one all that much, maybe only once or twice. So I'm looking forward to rewatching this one again, because other than the actor who they get, the guest actor for the episode, he's a nervous lawyer. That's all I really remember from it.
I've seen it enough. I mean, I've probably seen season 1 every episode at least 10 to 12 times. So I've seen it a bunch, but it's not one of my favorites, but I do remember a lot from it. It is pretty good. I think you will enjoy it, but it is really weird between season 1 and season 8. I know people can get on both of them a little bit, but I've seen certain episodes in season 1 and I've seen them out. Like this is one of them I've seen a million times. And there's a few episodes in season 8 I don't love, but the ones I love in season 8, I think are some of the best ones. I think they're some of the best television I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think season 8 is definitely much more hot and cold.
It is. There's a few ones that I don't love, and I think there was only 8 episodes in season 8, but there's a few of them in season 8, like Seas. I've seen Seas a million times, and I literally think it's one of, like, I would put it on a top 11 of my all-time favorite television episodes of anything. Like, it's a top, it would be on my Mount Rushmore of Psych episodes for sure.
I've got to, because I think I've only done season 8 once, maybe twice through.
Oh my god, that Cogged Blocked and
Cog Blocked. Yeah, I do remember Cog Blocked.
Sweevel. Like, go watch a couple of those if you have time with the wife this week. Just pick like those 3, and Sean and Gus truck things up. That is another one that I got to
rewatch that season. Yeah, because I the ones I remember, I kind of remember, but I remember watching it in real time as it was coming out, week to week, and I think they even broke that season up. There was a bit of a delay, right? They did half and then a bit of a wait, and then
it was the only one I watched live.
Yeah, so I haven't like I said, my wheelhouse, seasons 2 through 5. I've watched 6 a whole bunch, but 7, 8 not nearly as much as I've watched, the rest of them. So this will be a fun rewatch.
It will indeed, sir.
So Billy, where can the people find us?
They can find us literally everywhere. We now got merch on TeePublic, and I think right before I sign off my laptop tonight, I will put the link in the bio to PCP, so go check that out, get the merch, and you can also, if you buy the Rossi's Horrible Take shirt, 100% of those proceeds will go directly to the Frank Says Hi Foundation, which is something that me and Rossi take a lot of pride in, and hopefully the DSG can throw an event together when things are back to normal. You can find me on all social media platforms, including Peloton, where Goo is going to be talking about my workouts now, apparently, telling it to the Madden group. Crushed it last night, by the way, a PR. So Billy D2411 on all of those. You can find us on the Dork Shared Gooniverse Facebook page. Follow everybody on Twitter, all of the podcasts, TLDR. Let's see what else we got. We got PCP, which I am a part of. We have Mac and Goo. We have Dork. Changed my mind, which I was on, and I smoked that draft. I don't know. I think Wes was trying to win it, but he's just not good, I guess.
Fryer got so mad at me when I told him that you won the landslide.
He had good picks, but I think he kind of missed his last few, and I had solid value picks late. I picked like Collateral, and I picked Shaun of the Dead like 5th.
Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorites. Anchorman alone wins it.
And then I got Saw, and I got Dodgeball.
Saw
and Troy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you hit a home run. I told him, I said, every year you've got 2 great teams to make it to the Super Bowl. One of those great teams doesn't win. You just didn't win it this year. He was so fucking mad at me. But he was like, listen, you had him, and then he's trying to throw hypotheticals at me. And I mean, I'm like, yeah, Superman, but it's not the draft.
Superman 2 is a great movie, right? I'm not going to debate that, but like in the MCU, would it rank in the top 10? Maybe it might.
Probably.
It wouldn't be like
8, 9, 10, somewhere right around there.
Yeah, Anchorman of all time comedies, it's up there, like in maybe not the Mount Rushmore for everybody, but a lot of people consider that their favorite comedy of all time. So And I got that.
I do. It's my favorite. And but that was great. That was a lot of fun. So go check that out. You can find me on TLDR with Nick on Wednesdays at 1:00. You can find me on all social medias at Backcracker. And I won't fuck it up this week, Billy. I won't do it. So until next week, wait for it.
Frank says hi.